Good evening, everyone. And with me, I've got Tom Marchicello, who's promoting Tampa Bay. Why are we promoting Tampa Bay? What's up with that?
Let's go Bucks. Woo, Super Bowl. First time ever the home team gets to play at home in the stadium. How about that?
I heard a joke. This guy, you saw that joke today? The guy goes, I have this ticket, to the Bucks, and it's box seats and everything. And unfortunately, it's also my wedding. So can someone take over from me? She's waiting at the altar.
It's kind of like that.
It's kind of off color, but hey. Anyway, so thank you all for joining. We've got a very exciting show today. Lots going on, in fact. I see people are still arriving. But I'm going to start right away with, what I'm going to start right away with is our usual opener. Water is the new gold. And then I have a quick video with Dan Early, Dan Early.
We are working in the hospitality sector, Tessa, with some customers. And these hospitality customers, hotels and resorts, they understand that when they are when they're deriving source water from public drinking water systems, they know that they need to implement this type of technology. So we have several customers right now where we are providing point of use, reverse osmosis, and advanced drinking water filtration systems to take drinking water and to ensure that the institutional customer, that resort or that hotel, that they have safe drinking water for their system, for their customers. So we personally are now deploying these types of solutions to those types of customers. Another example would be where we're supplying decentralized drinking water systems for Department of State customers. So when I say Department of State, I'm talking about embassy facilities and consulate facilities overseas, U.S. embassy facilities. In those instances, right there, when the U.S. government goes overseas and they take their ambassadors and their staff over there and they occupy an embassy facility in a foreign country, a lot of times they're deriving their drinking water from the public water supplies of City of London or New Delhi or places like that. But then they get in these far-flung places, these in sub-Saharan Africa and in Southeast Asia, where the infrastructure is not there. They still have drinking water systems, but man, you are taking your life into your own hands. I mean, Mexico's a neighbor of ours, and they say when you go to Mexico, don't drink the water. There is a reason why they say that. And so we are deploying these same technologies, doing the exact same thing at that level. So yes, those are two classic examples of where we're doing this.
So let me set the stage here. I kind of threw this at you, but as you recall, we've been talking about the problem with biofilms. And so this is a quick clip and unfortunately, I'm sorry, it's a zoom of a zoom. So it's pretty blurry. But what Dan is talking about, I really wanted him to start talking about how we are helping with this enormous biofilms problem. Tom, you were in that conversation. Would you like to relate a little bit of what the context was?
Yeah, there's two simple answers, which is we are working in that all the time through using reverse osmosis, which is the most viable technology that deals with biofilms, because biofilms made up of bacteria and funguses and things have particulate matter of a certain size. So it means it's substantial. You can put a filter in place and block that contaminant from coming through your water system and remove it. So our reverse osmosis technologies and filtration systems are the number one guard you have to put on site at locations like hotels or hospitals or military bases to prevent that kind of contamination.
Yeah, and this is the first time we've really been talking about the work that Dan has been spearheading with this Department of State, and of course they're operating in strange places like Afghanistan and so forth, where water is dodgy. And so not only biofilms, but high bacterial levels, streptococcus, et cetera, viruses. So tell me a little bit about how, without naming names, of course, how much do we do this kind of State Department stuff?
Well, right now we're over $1 million of that exact product line right now, actively producing. So, I mean, it's substantial. I mean, we're always producing, I'd say about 4 or 5 units that are going into places like this. So It's good.
Nice.
Good work.
Nice. Yeah, it is good work and it's growing. So our partner there is excellent. Well, thank you. I'm going to now go into the actual presentation. I just wanted to get the clip out of the way. I think it's fascinating what we're doing, the stuff that Dan is doing. The interview was actually for an article that is going to appear in a water trade, and the deadline is literally tomorrow. But nonetheless, water is the new gold, helping you thrive in the world's only vital, scarce, and recession-proof market. Briefing number 95. Okay, so further on, we have the forward-looking statements. You've heard this before. I won't go into it. And this is that biofilm interview that I was just talking about, which is obviously fascinating. There'll be much more of this as we develop the story, because it's pretty key. Okay, now before we go on to some of the meat of the briefing, I wanted to talk a little bit about what is coming in terms of the new administration. And interestingly enough, there's bipartisan legislation coming out. This article was written the day before the election, so nobody knew yet what the administration was going to be. And so it was published, I think, on November 3rd. And what was obviously COVID-19, fine, and tax proposals. So the two things which are not really germane to us, but there's two that are, and they're very, very important. So let's unpack these a little bit. First of all, infrastructure legislation from this article. Both parties know the value of infrastructure spending, stimulate the economy, et cetera. Very likely we will see infrastructure legislation pass in early 2021. And that, Tom, we talk a lot about our decentralization work and so forth, but we have a heck of a lot going on with municipalities and large corporations, right?
Absolutely. I'd say we're at least half on both ends, because we're always dealing with corporations and industrial clients who need to do their on-site work. And then on the municipal side, you're dealing with state or city or small town level projects that always require updates, upgrades, changes to systems. And everybody's dealing with the infrastructure issues, aging infrastructure, lacking infrastructure, moving of people from the north to the south. There's just this boom going on of having to deal with infrastructure issues. And they're laggard issues where they may have put off those issues too long, too many years, and now they're faced with it. And they're like, oh my, we really got to do this.
So we talk a lot about the new trends, and I recall it, like it was yesterday, you presenting at the water chain symposium we had in 2018, and showing the two buckets of the centralized stuff and the decentralized stuff, and how the decentralized stuff was going to grow. But still, the centralized stuff is a big piece of our business, and I think this is going to be very helpful.
Well, they go together. I mean, you always have a symbiotic relationship in the industry. The water industry is a big industry that has needs on all ends. Sure. Just because something is decentralized doesn't mean it's not participating. The truth is everybody's learning from each other and then implementing best solutions that help each other. And over time, these systems have gotten smaller and cheaper, more compact and efficient, to where they can be deployed to a commercial location, versus in the past, only governments could afford to do that, right? The simple topic of desalination or reverse osmosis, those are only the things of government dreams, and then eventually big government spending and city spending. And now, because the technology is so matured after 20, 30 years, now you could have one in your house. Like, it's really the technology curve, just like every technology curve allows it to happen.
100%. Okay, so then we have the second thing, and this is, I think, something you've been pushing very heavily, Tom, which is Made in USA, incentivizing businesses to conduct art, research, manufacturing domestically. And both parties, obviously, and this is really interesting. We talk a lot about division in our country, but Donald Trump was trying to bring business back to America. And what's one of the first things that Biden said in this administration this week was, we want to bring, manufacturing back to the U.S. So they both want the same thing. And I think that's very important.
Yeah, made in USA is profitable for the USA, obviously, right? When you're a manufacturer and you export products out, you make the money. I mean, you don't want to be the guy importing and paying the tariffs, but in the end of the day, it's also just good business, because it brings high-skilled labor to the United States, also brings innovation, because we're innovators in the US, and we tend to put more money into our R&D and then create even better products, which then, get more streamlined. So it's a real win for us across the board.
That's a really good point you make, Tom, because when I was raising my son, who just turned 23, back then he was at a private school where there was a tremendous amount of demand from China and Korea parents to send their kids to an American school to get out of the rote learning thing, to learn something more outside the box, and to become leaders, basically. And I think that's where we forget that the United States is a leader in terms of innovation, in terms of this perhaps less regimentation. Now, of course, it makes us problem kids. Not that my son was ever a problem kid, but what I mean is that along with some of our tendency to misbehave, we're also pretty good innovators. Look at Elon Musk.
Musk is the perfect poster child. Bill Gates, Steve Jobs, pick one. I mean, these guys understand the whole concept of not just opportunity, but also working hard and making a product and making it, getting out there with it. Like, this is what we're great at in America. We're innovative, we're smart, we're capitalistically minded. Like, those are the good things. That's the reason why we even have a stock market. The whole idea is you put money into things that allow it to grow, because you're taking a picture on how things are going to grow into the future. And I'd bet on America every time. I mean, that's the easiest plan that always works.
Amen. So with that said, and I just want to quickly cover the big picture of how we are part of this new trend, but there's an even bigger part that I'm going to talk about now. And this is very, very early. Literally this has been developing. I always like to tell you that we're the most transparent public company around. So we have what you might call a skunk works. What is a skunk works? That was Lockheed had the old skunk works. They called it that because nobody in the advanced technologies department washed. So they kind of turned into a skunk works. But there's some stuff happening here. We're looking at breakthrough technology to turn seawater into drinking water. And that's because, I've been going on about, 20 years until we quote unquote run off our fresh water, meaning major disruptions and loss of life and so forth. And the link is at the bottom there in Common Dreams. And for sure, what we're working on the main line is the recycling, the more water treatment, all that stuff. But there is something very important, and that is we have, 97.5% of the world's water is salt, and 40% of the world's population lives within 100 kilometers of coastlines. And so there is an interesting opportunity here where there is really interesting technology, and it has not gotten out of the lab yet. It needs to, well, you know what? OriginClear is a platform, and I think we can do something here. Now, isn't it interesting how current desalination is not only expensive, but it's very energy intensive? And what is the focus of the new administration? Well, I'll show it to you right now on screen. What's the big one? Number one, cut total emissions by up to 50% by 2030. That is just 8 years from now. That is, a huge goal. So, you look at what's happening in Saudi Arabia. They have these huge desalination plants, and they have very cheap fossil fuels and so forth. But these things are not the sustainable way to make fresh water. So there's something to be gained from doing something about turning, as I was saying, breakthrough technology to turn seawater into drinking water. You will be hearing more about this. None of this affects Tom. This has nothing, as I briefed you, this has nothing to do with what you're doing. It will be done completely, like I say, in the skunk works. It has nothing to do with the fund that we're developing, et cetera. This is an important thing that I think is going to make a huge difference. It's really interesting. There's all kinds of things you can do with water, but people look at the ocean and they go, what the heck? There's all this darn salt water. And I get email all the time about, well, what about desalination? Well, we're going to be taking a look at this, and there'll be more to report on it. Okay, now here's the topic of the day and how funding is the key to speeding up water deals. I'm going to just check. I checked chat, and somebody from D said, "Wow!" So that is super cool. That is super cool. And I'm just checking here. Okay, I was just checking participants. Lovely to have you guys on board. So The problem is the slow water deal. That is something that, Tom, you and I have lived with. You know, that there's that classic hotel deal that you did that we now have that we're going to be delivering this quarter. But I think you worked on it for like a year and a half. It was ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, we did a lot of proposals, multiple hotels until one really stuck in there. Yeah, but it then took.
Well, one of the things that happened, of course, because it was a big capital expense, is the minute the chief engineer bought off on it and sent the mandate down to all the hotels, every hotel had to prove that they had a better approach. And we had to like work our way through all those, right?
Yeah, no, but they do count it like you said. It's a capex expense, and they're just like going, yeah, but and they're debating whether how to make this all fly through, and then they have to redo their numbers, and eventually they figure it out. So it gets budgeted.
Yeah, so that's the first one. CapEx is a big deal. Number two, and this is an important one for us because the more important the investment, the more they want to go, well, we'll play it safe. We'll go with the big guy. Now, the big guy or gal, because American Water Works, there's actually a woman who's, I think, chairman or CEO. But anyway, I don't want to be, there's a lot of men in the water industry, but there are women too. But the tendency is to go, like what they used to say in high tech, you could never be fired for choosing IBM. Even if IBM was crappy, you would never be fired. So for the innovative solutions, these big CapEx decisions actually work against us, and it makes it harder. The other thing is that there's resistance, like, this is not my business. I don't treat water. Why am I trying to do this? So they tend to resist it. They may not have the money or the credit, or they may not want to do personal guarantees, this and that. And the final problem that you and I have seen, Tom, is that these things go on for months and months and months, meetings, on-site negotiations, redrawing, everything. And after a while, where's the margin, right?
Yeah, well, they're asking the question.
Now, the solution that is to fund the systems is something called a water purchase agreement, the WPA. It's like what they have in solar, which is the power purchase agreement. You've heard of Solar City. Well, that's very much the kind of model. It's OpEx, meaning it's like paying rent. It's just you're paying on the meter, or there's the water bill. We're going to pay the water bill, no big deal. And also, because the vendor is already offering the machine up front, then there's no concern about whether the vendor is big enough to cover the deal. And so innovators tend to bubble to the top. This is the final point, is really important, and I think is a major differentiator for us. Normally, WPAs work with very long cycles. We're talking 15 years. Like if you look at the example of our friends over at Cambrian, because they have to, they're putting the system in the ground or bolt it in. Well, if you can repossess, then you can have shorter term agreements, and that reduces risk. You don't have to be quite so demanding of their commitment and so forth. And it makes it harder for others to do, because remember, the technology we've licensed is patented, five excellent patents by Dan Early, and the stuff is good. Gina Lowe is asking a question. You're talking about water. Will there be a plan by OriginClear to treat sewage? Well, of course. And that, Gina, is a very good question. We do that all day long. In fact, what's little known is that we actually do city deals. We've done a couple cities in the last year or two, and that is straight out sewage treatment. In addition, we had that wonderful project, remember, Tom, up in Pennsylvania, where there was that car dealer. Tell that story a little bit.
Well, there's an automobile dealership that had a desire to do a closed loop system, which means any wastewater produced on site, from toilets to car washing to grease trap water, could be recycled through the unit, then pushed back into the system and be used for toilet water or wash down water or irrigation water. So you basically get to close loop it and use it again, which is pretty innovative, actually. And that really reduces their use of water and their cost on water, and also basically reduces their burden on, the infrastructure, the local community infrastructure. It's a win-win.
So all that, closed loop treatment and so forth, getting people off the grid, cutting the cord in a waterway is very much what we do. That again is what we're talking about when we're getting into these water purchase agreements, because people are not just buying water coming in, they're also paying for the water being treated. So that's what that's about. And then Gina has a follow-up question, cleaning gray water. Absolutely. We have, those are called the purple pipes. Purple pipes, where they're separated. In America, we don't always have the plumbing separate between black and gray water. Where it is gray, it's very easy to treat for irrigation. And that is actually, the world leader in treating gray water is Australia. They had a major drought about, 10, 12 years ago, longer actually, about now 20 years ago. And they went thoroughly into gray water treatment to water their lawns and so forth. And we've got the technology, but all too often the gray water pipes are not separate unless the building is much newer. So yeah, we love doing that. And Gina, these are great questions. So carrying on here, let me talk a little bit more about the cycle. Now we have a shortened cycle where customers sign a long-term water purchase agreement, WPA, just like those solar deals. And then of course we build it and the customer pays on the meter, deal is done. That is a very fast deal. So what does that mean in terms of revenues? Gina, you're asking all the great questions. So could you replace septic systems? Is that economically feasible? Very good question. Here's what's happening with septic. Septic's cheap for sure. Now there's several problems. Number one, increasingly FHA, the Federal Housing Authority, is more and more prohibiting septic tanks by making it, they have to be farther, the drain field has to be, 100 yards from the well, things like that. There are regulations that are locking people out of FHA loans if they go with septic tanks. There's that. The additional problem is that we have a lot of problems with viral loads. And, these days, we've become very sensitive to viral loads. And so we can replace them. Is it more expensive? Perhaps so. But I think that it's going to happen more and more. So with that, and I'm going to continue, but these are wonderful questions. Thank you, Gina. Now, another big reason, and this is another thing that we do specially that other people don't. Water as a Career program puts entrepreneurs into the water business. We have a whole package we've built. It's a great career building package that we're going to review again because it's going live on our website in the next couple of days. And what they are is like a bunch of Amway salespeople, but they're selling water systems. And these are larger systems, right? So, but think about this. If I go to sell to a hotel and it's going to take me a year or a year and a half to sell the deal, well, I'm not going to last for a long time as an independent salesperson. Not going to happen. So pre-funding is critical to making these waterpreneurs succeed because they can come in and go, hey, I've got a system. Here it is, sign here, and we'll get the thing going. Let me tell you about this example because we have this premium hotel system now going in and we're going to be delivering it this quarter. I hope to be able to tell you more about it in detail. But that's a $140,000 system for a 212 room hotel, luxury hotel. All the water going into that hotel will be super premium water. Great. That is actually going to be a reference site for us. And from there, we can actually give that reference site to waterpreneurs who go out there. And secondly, they have like I say, the fully specified, priced out, all the options, a standard product, and we can now pre-fund it the way it works. Okay. All right. So let's talk a little bit about this fund then. As you know, we're building Origin Clear Financial. What's that about? Well, first of all, what we're tapping into is the real estate investors contributing assets directly. All right. Now, this is cool because instead of requiring someone to come up with $1 million, we say, you know what, you've got a property, you can go ahead, we'll do an asset purchase agreement, we'll bring the asset in, and there will be potential tax benefits. That is to be determined. It doesn't always work, but there's ways for that to work. For example, share for share swaps, which defers taxes, things like that. There's a variety of systems. And here's the thing, they can just go ahead and sign over the asset and we'll leverage it. Now, they will remain secured because there will be security agreements on the equipment that's financed. So they'll have recourse on the equipment. And of course, they'll have a profit share. We have some early indications that people want to be involved. as business partners as well, not just passive investors. In other words, to go ahead and sell these Pawnsters and so forth. That's something I just heard today, Tom, was that we have these guys one investor who wants to take his property, put it into the system, and then have a business that actually sends the machines out. So that's kind of cool. So where do we stand with that? We have these preliminary commitments. And as I've been reporting to you, we have non-binding memorandums of understanding, MOUs, for $3 million. They're good faith. And there's much more happening. There's up to $12 million more. But again, that we don't even have the MOU for that. So let's just say that for now, we have these good faith but non-binding commitments for $3 million, which is great news. Okay, let's continue here. Revenue sources. This is something I want you to talk to, Tom, is these 4 revenue sources and how you see this as really growing our business.
Sure, no problem. So obviously, if you're dealing with water systems and you're putting them on a pay-as-you-go model, the first fundamental issue is that PWT makes the equipment. So obviously, if it's a drinking water system or some other type of unit, there's just a fundamental cost to it that we build the unit. We basically get that put on a truck and shipped out and sent to a location to be operated. So we have the ability to operate the system on the location and or place it with a subcontractor in the field. So often there's field operators out there who can basically, do the installation and the maintenance out in the field as well. So we can have our folks engineer it, or we can have subs basically managing it. So there's an entire supply chain there that basically lets people get paid to do work and services. And obviously then, we have to go back out and service the contract. Usually we put things on a 5-year, contract is a fairly common thing for warranties. And that includes annual maintenance or sometimes every 3 years maintenance for certain parts and labor. And then there's refurbishment, and replacement, filters or housings and so forth, tubes and gaskets. So there's upfit, kind of things, which basically we can either repair something for costs or we can even make upgrades. So there's always an ability to continue to get some ancillary service fees as we go along. And then obviously OriginClear, nets a management fee on, deploying this stuff because they're essentially the third party, financier against this activity.
Yeah. So, it was, right now we only have number 1, right? This is the classic formula, DBOO, design, build, own, operate. So far right now, we only do design and build, where we're giving up a huge amount of revenues. I remember back in the day, we built a major frac system for someone, and we just built it. No, it was actually an entire city in Texas. And then the other company we sold it to, so we sold it for, that we were the subcontractor. They got all the revenue from operating the system for the city. So here, this opens up both the operating the system and of course owning it. Mm-hmm. And then at the corporate level, you and me will be managing the fund and get, fair management fees. So that's the exciting part. So with that said, I'm going to tell you that unfortunately, we have a rights problem. I wanted to get Ivan into this. He and Artie are doing amazing things for us. They are bringing these investors from their real estate base, and they are doing amazing things to support us. Their real estate venture is now in the Inc. It's number 85 on the Inc. 500, and is the number 3 company in Florida, in all of Florida, on the Inc. 500. And they're doing the introduction work. Very helpful. We have we licensed their wonderful Invest with a Purpose process. And, they have a rule of thumb, which is that when someone invests $100,000 in this future model, not the current one, because that is the old school one, but the new school model, they invest $100,000, that it purifies 1 million liters per month. So that's the concept there. That is a save the world kind of concept. It's a wonderful one. So what I'm going to be doing here is there is actually an amazing announcement that Ivan has, but I'm actually going to have to hold back on it. There is a huge announcement coming from something that Ivan has done to commit himself personally. He and his wife Bella are just doing something stellar in terms of committing themselves to the company. We're blown away. I'm not going to get into it today because I wanted him on the show, and I think that there was a Zoom issue. That's fine, because next week we will be able to announce it properly, and we'll devote much longer show to Ivan and what he's done here. I can tell you it is super exciting. So quickly to just discuss how you can participate. And Ken Berenger and I work super closely on All Strategy. Literally, we talk several times a day. And fortunately, I do not have a jealous wife. And, basically, he has the inside track on what we're doing strategically. And he can, he will, of course, never tell you non-public information that he shouldn't. He's very good about that. But he will give you more flavor and more context than I can possibly do in this call. And he is brilliant. I strongly recommend you schedule a call, oc.gold/Ken in your browser. Talk to him. I believe you will have a very, very good experience. Now, before I go on, there was also a chat request about doing a water treatment outside the country. And that question is a very good one. That's where this Department of State stuff comes in, for example. And now we're starting to expand with the Philanthro Investor relationship. They're in 19 countries. And that, I believe, is going to bring us some deal flow even further. We also have partners all over the world. We have a European partner with the animal treatment in Spain. We have a Romanian partner, Middle Eastern partner who's actually the #1 oil services company in the Middle East, Al Mansour, and also a major player in Oman that we're working with, as well as our wonderful partner in India, Permionics, and more. So yes, we are all over the world, and obviously we're not just US centric. All right, I was talking about the Trusted Investor Conference, and you will be hearing about this. Basically, we are going to, if you have invested more than once in an OriginClear private placement, then we would like to get you in there. This is very, very important feedback for us. And we will not be sitting there with a whiteboard, getting leaderboards going on you investing. This is not what this is about. We trust our investors deeply. You've really put yourself on the line for us. And as you know, we take good care of you to make sure that you are in good shape. So more on the fund progress next week, and specifically this news from Ivan, which I guarantee you will blow your mind. So that will be the end of the show tonight. It's gone a few minutes over, but I think it's been super exciting. I want to thank you all. Tom, it's really great as far as Tampa Bay, since I'm here too.
Come on, baby. Tom Brady and Gronkowski and all the other guys, they brought a team together. It's been fun. So much fun.
GOAT, for sure.
It's going to be a good game. It'll be fun.
Good. Well, with that, thank you all. I appreciate it. We've had excellent attendance tonight. I am privileged, as always, to have that kind of attendance. You care. I love it. I hope I've given you a lot of information. There'll be more and more next week. And I think this desalination thing is also going to grow into something interesting without disturbing anything that I've been telling you about. And from Star to the panelists, thanks for the information. You're welcome. And thank you all. Good night and enjoy your weekend.